Okay, moving on to our next feature, restrict by authorizations. So this tool is going to help you ensure that you're not overbilling for your services. So we know we already have in CentralReach the ability to restrict to the week, to the month, and the total authorization amount. We wanted to help you ensure that even if you're checking allow overbilling on those weekly amounts, that you really aren't going over your authorization limits. We wanted to give you another tool that just prevents the booking of appointments that your company might not be reimbursed for. So let's take a look at this in the system. So we know when we're putting an authorization in, we have the ability to allow overbilling at both the monthly or the group total amount. While this might be a great line of defense for you, this doesn't actually come into play until after the scheduled appointment has already been serviced and you're already responsible for those units for those hours, even though you might not be reimbursed for them. This new permission with CentralReach, appointments, override authorization limitations, it's going to allow you to give specific staff members the ability to override those authorization limitations at the point of scheduling. It's going to tell you if you're going over. That way you can ensure that when you're putting that appointment on the calendar, if you really aren't authorized for all of those hours, all of those units, you're finding out right then, not after the service has been provided. So some key points to remember about restricting scheduling using this new permission is that you definitely want to make sure that your staff have the override authorization limitations permission turned on here. You'll also want to make sure that in your appointment details, your schedule validation is turned on. So schedule validation, you can turn this on by default for all of your appointments. You'll just want to make sure that in your scheduling module, in the settings, you come into your additional settings. At the very top one, enable schedule validation. Always is a great default here. That way it's always going to be turned on for you, making sure that you're not going over any hours. You're seeing all of those warning signs at the time of scheduling, not at the time of conversion. So some key points to remember there. You also want to set it up in that permissions module, making sure you give them that permission. It does overrule the allow overbilling at the authorizations level. So that little checkbox, this is going to override that and ensure that you really are catching it at the time of scheduling. And like we said before, your staff does need that override authorizations, limitations permission, and that is the same as the last permission we just reviewed.